200 milliseconds. That is how long it takes the human brain to read the social status of a person entering a room. The information is processed, categorized, and responded to before a single word is spoken, before the handshake, before the introduction, before any conscious thought can intervene. Your nervous system has already made its determination, and it has communicated that determination to every nervous system in the room through channels you have no conscious access to. What you say after that is commentary on a negotiation that already concluded. Research teams at New York University published findings in 2011 showing that status assessment in the human brain occurs primarily in the amygdala and orbitofrontal cortex, regions involved in threat detection and social reward, within 200 milliseconds of exposure to another person. This is not a measurement of how fast we form opinions. It is a description of a neurological event that happens before the prefrontal cortex, where conscious, deliberate thought lives, has had any input whatsoever. The brain is not processing social status as preference or judgment. It is processing it as survival data. The circuits that scan for physical threat are the same circuits scanning the person who just walked through the door. The categorization: high status, low status, ally, threat, resource, irrelevance happens at the speed of reflexes, not reasoning. This means that every significant social interaction you have entered in your life began with a biological negotiation you were not aware of. The outcome of that negotiation, how much physical space you were given, how closely you were listened to, whether people leaned toward you or away, whether your words carried weight before you finished the sentence, was determined by signals your nervous system was broadcasting and receiving simultaneously, without your knowledge, in under a quarter of a second. The signals are not what most people assume. They are not primarily about appearance, clothing, or even body language in the conventional sense of posture and eye contact tips. They are about nervous system state, the nervous system of a high-status organism, and this holds with remarkable consistency across species, from primates to humans, broadcasts a specific physiological signature: lower cortisol, higher baseline serotonin, slower respiration rate, a parasympathetic dominance that reads to every proximate nervous system, as this organism does not perceive itself as threatened. An organism that does not feel threatened in the ancient calculus of social hierarchy is an organism that has the resources to absorb threat, which translates across the subcortical machinery of everyone nearby as dominant. Robert Sapolsky documented this across 30 years of field research with baboon populations in Kenya. The dominant animal in a troop is not necessarily the largest or most aggressive. It is the one whose cortisol levels remain stable under stress, the one whose nervous system takes a significant social challenge and returns to baseline fastest. That physiological signature radiates. Other animals read it without instruction, without conscious assessment, as an automatic biological response. Their behavior reorganizes around it. The measurement is precise. Sapolsky published data from the Masai Mara research showing that the alpha animal's cortisol levels were not the lowest in the troop. They were the most resilient, the fastest to return to baseline after a significant social challenge. Sustained suppression of cortisol was consistently associated with subordinate animals in specific troop configurations, where low status produced chronic stress without recovery. What was associated with dominance was not the absence of physiological response, but the speed and completeness of return to regulation after it. The animal that recovered fastest was read by every animal in proximity as the one most capable of absorbing further challenge. The human social environment operates through the same mechanism. The person who walks into a room and commands it instantly is not performing confidence. Their nervous system is in a specific biological state. Every other nervous system in the room reads that state in under 200 milliseconds and adjusts accordingly, giving more space, listening more closely, assigning more weight to the words before they are finished being spoken. This is not perception. It is biology running an ancient program. The system exists because status in ancestral human environments was not a social preference. It was a direct proxy for resource access, protection, and the information networks that kept individuals alive. For 98% of human evolutionary history, humans lived in bands of 20 to 150 individuals, where hierarchy determined who ate first when food was scarce, who received alliance support when threats appeared, and who had priority access to the social goods, cooperation, information, reproductive access that constituted survival. Getting hierarchy wrong had direct physical consequences. Misreading a dominance signal in an ancestral environment could mean a physical confrontation with an individual better positioned to win it. The brain's speed in reading status, faster than conscious thought, faster than speech, faster than deliberate assessment, is a feature of this system, not a limitation. These are fast neural circuits routed through subcortical regions that evolution optimized for speed because in the environments where they developed, delay meant injury. The problem is specific and measurable. Those circuits have not been updated by the transition to modernity. The same mechanism that read status in a tribal hierarchy for survival is now reading status at a job interview, in a team meeting, at a first conversation with someone whose opinion of you will matter for years. It is using the same speed and the same biological criteria: cortisol signature, respiratory rate, parasympathetic state, in environments where the consequences of hierarchy have changed entirely, but the detection machinery has not. Understanding this changes what social preparation actually means. Every social interaction you enter is preceded by a broadcast. Your nervous system is making involuntarily, continuously, to every proximate nervous system in the environment. If your nervous system is in a chronic stress state, elevated cortisol, sympathetic dominance, the physiological signature of an organism that perceives itself as under threat, that state broadcasts before you speak. The amygdalae of every person in the room process it in under 200 milliseconds. Their nervous systems respond by assigning you lower status in the biological hierarchy, automatically, without decision, without judgment. They give less space. They listen less closely. They interrupt more readily. They remember less of what you said. This is not social cruelty. It is ancient machinery executing a program it was built to execute. The inverse operates with equal precision. A nervous system in genuine parasympathetic dominance, regulated, not performing regulation, actually regulated at the physiological level, broadcasts the exact signature that subcortical threat detection circuits read as high status before the words, before the presentation, before any conscious social strategy engages. This is why the advice to simply speak with confidence does not work for most people. The nervous system of the people in the room is not processing the conscious performance of confidence. It is reading the biological state underneath the performance. And it reads that biological state faster than the performance can begin. Most people spend the majority of their social energy and preparation on what they say. They rehearse introductions, prepare arguments, calibrate vocabulary, plan transitions. They are optimizing for a conscious communication channel that accounts for, at most, a fraction of the information a social interaction transmits. The nervous systems of everyone they meet have already processed the rest. They processed it in the hallway, in the first step through the door, in the 200-millisecond window that closed before a single word was spoken. The status hierarchy that governs how much space you are given, how seriously your contributions are weighted, how much social credibility your words carry before they are finished. That hierarchy is established by a biological communication system operating entirely without your awareness, using criteria that predate language by hundreds of thousands of years. The system has been running since before language existed. It is running right now in every room you enter. It will be running the next time you walk through a door, broadcasting a signal you cannot fake and cannot turn off. Calibration is not performance. The distinction matters because the entire framework of social presentation advice assumes you can produce a different result through behavioral modification alone. The subcortical machinery reading you at 200 milliseconds does not process behavior. It processes physiological state. Regulation is biological before it is behavioral. A nervous system genuinely in parasympathetic dominance, one that has developed the capacity to take a high-stress stimulus and return to baseline quickly, does not broadcast regulation as a choice. It broadcasts regulation as a state. That state reaches the amygdala of everyone in the room before the words begin, before any conscious social strategy has had a chance to engage. Research on stress inoculation, developed by military psychologists in the 1980s for high-stakes operational environments, shows consistent results. The nervous system learns to recover from activation faster with repeated graduated exposure, not to avoid activation, recovery speed. That recovery rate is precisely what other nervous systems are reading at the 200 millisecond mark and assigning to the status hierarchy. What broadcasts high status is not the absence of stress. It is the biological evidence that stress was processed and the system returned to regulation. The neural circuits performing this assessment have no mechanism to distinguish between regulated physiology that developed through genuine high-stakes exposure and regulated physiology developed through deliberate practice. Both produce the same signature, the same read, the same social response. Only calibrate.